Hello, it's a lovely good evening and welcome to Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo to present. Our top stories in the news tonight. Bishop MFULA urges the church to offer counseling to those accused of corruption. Government advised to tackle rural poverty by re-looking at farming blocks. Operation Young Vote bemoans disrespecting the presidency by those charged with corruption. In international news, woman's death in childbirth sparks outcry in Senegal. And in sports news, Tunisian wins a prestigious tennis title in Madrid. Hello once again, another news in detail. A male adult of Lusaka's John Lane compound has called on the Ministry of Community Development to audit all those on the social cash transfer program in the area. Gabriel Inasho has told Camnet News in an interview that the CWAC officials in the area are in a tendency of including abled persons on the program, leaving out community members with real challenges. Meanwhile, a 59-year-old differently abled man says the social welfare officials in the area have paid a blind eye to helping his 22-year-old disabled son getting on the social cash transfer program as well as other programs. More in this report.
He broke down in tears as he narrates the challenges that his 22-year-old son goes through every day just for him to find food so that they can have a meal. Thomas Chalwe, a 59-year-old disabled man, has narrated to Camnet News that he stays with his only son who suffers from cerebral palsy, a condition that has left him with no legs.
Number distance. Sometimes angazibwera mpaka kuzamufipira mwemu kwaila, especially ngati kulimanzi apita che mumanzi so chape akulaya pie alaisa pie monana cheso so sometimes mani baba mani but ndatasharesa nalishoko bati fintu fyonse
Mr. Chalwe further says his son was once on a community-based intervention program for special children at Mambo School, but that he was later dropped without giving any explanation.
Then eventually, community-based intervention. So eventually, now we give up. We are no human assistant. So, if we no
Mr. Chalwe also says he lost his wife and 2 other children in the same week in the year 2010 due to meningitis. He says 4 years after losing his wife and 2 children, he equally suffered from dry ganglion, a condition that led to the amputation of his leg and later loss of his job at Prisca Security Company, where he worked as a dog trainer.
Same week. No, you actually that
He has since called on well-wishers to help his son with a wheelchair and, if possible, a decent house, saying they are owing their landlord in excess of 4,000 kwacha rent. And Gabriel Inasho, a concerned citizen, has accused the CWAC officers under the Ministry of Community Development in John Lane compound of being biased when it comes to selecting beneficiaries of the social cash transfer program.
So ndefo kuipushako bakatwebeko abo bene ama vulnerables obo balanda busheni fwe balanda nanguni bali aba ama landlord because abengi obo tulesanga muno mukombo ne abale furation ndala ma landlord nga chakutila tulebe pogufi bakese isabo bene ba social welfare na ifwe bene fwe ma beneficiaries bakatwebeko bati tusonteleni amayanda tulino kuba sonto ko bati aya mayanda ni anani olo basiwa kitsira chabo baya mukutola bali abene basiwa balafula nokufola but balete oboko bati you as a beneficiary you cannot be as what as a siwa in which way.
For Mr. Chalwe, his son has been denied an opportunity to be on the social cash transfer program on argument that two members of the same house cannot be on the program. Prudence Shota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Operation Young Vote OIV has expressed disappointment at alleged demeaning language being directed at President Hakainde Hichilema by some former government officials being investigated for purported corrupt practices. OIV Executive Director Ges Nyurenda says those who feel aggrieved by the actions of investigative bodies should not vent their anger on the president, but on the law which mandates the law enforcers to carry out investigations when they notice dubious transactions. Mr. Nyurenda says it is quite saddening to see people go to social media or even call for press briefings just to demean the president. He says the hate speech and derogatory language will not only injure the targeted person, but corrupts the morals of young people who will think it is normal to insult the head of state.
We are so, worried that the language that they are using, especially on the head of state, is so demeaning and inappropriate. It is unacceptable. When people are arrested, I mean, let the law enforcers, let the institutions that have the mandate to do what they are doing, do their job, and you must vent your anger on the law and not on the head of state. The head of state has nothing to do with the people's corruption, whether it is now or in the past. The head of state has nothing to do with people's committing crimes. And I think we must respect the head of state. It is embarrassing that in this country we can wake up any time, and because you are facing some charges or because you were arrested by the police, and now you are addressing the media on your bond or whatever, then you say whatever you think you can say. I think that is unacceptable. Let us mind our language, let us mind our utterances, let us mind that when we bring out these issues, especially hate speech and derogatory language, I mean, we are injuring ourselves as a people, and others will be laughing at us. I mean, the children who are coming after us, they think it's normal to say anything to the head of state. While we appreciate, yes.
A clergyman, Bishop MFULA, says the church should step in and offer moral guidance even as the country journeys on its fight against corruption, with Zambia being a Christian nation. In an interview, Bishop MFULA says the church should be involved through offering moral counseling to perpetrators while allowing the law to take its course. He has also emphasized the need to those mandated to fight the vice to ensure that they do so without malice.
So I would actually encourage the church, the clergy. We are partners to the fight of corruption, because we are key in removing the corruption in the hearts of men. Corruption is a heart issue. Yes, the corruption is a hard issue. It's beyond what police can do. We appreciate their efforts. It's beyond what man can get to try to do, and we appreciate the efforts that government would get to put in. But then it's important to know that it's a hard issue. It's a hard issue, and we must be able to also dialogue and see how best these people involved can actually get to be helped. Very much important, because where a proper dialogue is done, conviction also would actually get to take place. There's a place for the law. There's also a place where spiritual people can come in and partner in getting to deal with some of these things. I know these are angles that are not easily explored, yet that's where we'll be able to find the best of solutions. You can never leave out the church in the fight against corruption. Very important. On the other hand, those that are fighting the corruption, let's see, are we fighting this corruption with uncorrupt hearts? Are we our motives correct? Are they really after eradicating corruption?
The Plumbers Association of Zambia, PAZ, has called on the Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation to seriously consider regulating the plumbing sector. Association Project Coordinator Mutunda Malichi says if left unattended to, it may result in Zambia's failure to meet the 2030 goals on sanitation for all citizens. In an interview, Mr. Malichi notes that regulating the plumbing sector will enhance efficiency for the works being done. More in this report.
Poor sanitation has remained a major problem in Zambia, as sewer spillages have become the norm in many communities, heightening the risk of waterborne diseases. According to the Plumbers Association of Zambia, PAZ, this has mainly been caused by poor plumbing works, as this sector has not been regulated, meaning that anyone with some skill in the area can conduct plumbing works despite not being a qualified plumber. While looked at as a normal thing in Zambia, the association notes that this should be looked at as a serious problem, stating that this will hinder the country from attaining 2030 goals of good sanitation for all. The country has also continued to lose revenue due to water that is left unaccounted for, owing to water spillages. Association Project Coordinator Engineer Mutunda Malichi was speaking to Camnet News.
Plumbers, everybody who is going to practice plumbing must have the qualification from trade certificate up to diploma or even degree level. There are other countries that are offering degree level in terms of plumbing. So in trying to support this vision, in trying to support government, I think that we need to work together with water utility companies, because these water networks are actually installed by water utility companies. So water utility companies are the major stakeholder in terms of employment of plumbers. So we're saying let's work together and ensure that we provide a quality service that will result in reducing waterborne diseases and other diseases in the country.
Meanwhile, PAZ Secretary General Mr. Joseph Banda has expressed concern at the high risk of sewer and tap water mixing due to poor plumbing works as witnessed in some communities.
And then the other program that will help us to ensure that as Plumbers Association of Zambia, we help in mitigating the water leakages so that we avoid waterborne diseases, is ensuring that we carry out community awareness program or community outreach programs, where we sensitize the members of the community at large the importance, the benefits of plumbing works, so that together we can move together, work together, and by so doing, I think we'll reduce the issues of waterborne diseases that are actually all over there now.
Stakeholders in the water and sanitation sector have been calling for an audit of the water and sanitation situation in communities around the country. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Ministry of Local Government says all business proposals that will not be selected for funding under the Constituency Development Fund (CDF) should be given reason why their proposals have been rejected. Ministry Permanent Secretary Mambo Hamaundu says members of the Constituency Development Committee have been instructed to ensure that they explain to the owners of proposals that will be rejected the reason behind the rejection in order to help build capacity. Mr. Hamaundu says government does not want the resources to be underused for reasons that people do not know how to write functioning proposals. He says various stakeholders have come on board to help build capacity in cooperatives and has urged those seeking funding to consult the right people on how to write proposals. More in this report.
Citizens await on the Ministry of Local Government to begin dispersing the Constituency Development Fund CDF meant for projects. Some citizens have complained that the process of writing business proposals when registering cooperatives as well as when receiving financing has been a problem, leading to some even failing to register their cooperatives. Ministry of Local Government, however, says it has directed OCDF committees to ensure that it engages all groups whose proposals will be rejected and explain to them why their businesses have been rejected in order to enhance capacity building. Ministry Permanent Secretary Mambo Hamaundu said this to Camnet News.
From our perspective, they're saying the guidelines are very explicit. You don't need to write a complex proposal. Besides, if you submit a proposal and your proposal is rejected, the members of the Constituency Development Committee or the CDF committee are instructed to tell you the reason why your proposal has not been accepted. And we think that that is one of the ways to help in terms of building capacity. But beyond that, we are engaging, we are interacting with various stakeholders. Many of these NGOs have come on board to help and build capacity.
The Permanent Secretary has also appealed to all those failing to write business proposals to engage other family members and friends in order to do so. He says the will of the government is to see OCDF resources put to use and that those resources that will not be utilized by the end of the year will be carried over to the other year and not returned to the Treasury as was the case in the past.
We do not want this resource not to be utilized because a person is not able to write a proposal. If they are unable to write a proposal, their brother or sister must be able. If their brother and sister is not able, their cousin or uncle. We want to bring communities together. We want people to work together because they are working for development of their communities and eventually for the development of the country. So it is a participatory approach. It's not a one-man show. No, it's a community activity.
Mr. Hamaundu has since appealed to other stakeholders to come on board in helping build capacity in businesses seeking funding under CDF. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Small-Scale Farmers Development Agency, SAFADA, says potato and onion farmers in Zambia should be empowered with knowledge and necessary funding if the country intends to permanently move from the importation of these commodities. In an interview, agency director Mr. Boyd Morwe notes that while onion and potato farmers have large scale, many of them do not have the capacity to do so. The Ministry of Agriculture recently announced that it will soon make reforms to the Farmer Input Support Program FISP to make it more inclusive.
So the other thing is the credit facility of financial system, the financial services. Farmers are lacking finance. Whatever little they produce and flood the market is from their own small pockets, which is not enough. It was 2 days ago when I was talking to one of the farmers. He was complaining about his tomato. You see, it's changing colors. I said, no, maybe it's weather. No, Bwana, there's this and that and that. You know, we tried to explain to the farmers. I saw that the farmers are lacking knowledge to understand why his tomato is changing when it was coming up well and then it's changing. So all in all, what I can say is, one, farmers are lacking knowledge, basic knowledge, agriculture information, and also resources, and also support from the government. You know, we are happy that the government has come up with this agriculture support program. We hope the agriculture support program will intensify its approach and really help the farmers on the ground, not selecting farmers and picking farmers, but all the farmers should have access to this support from the government so that we produce enough for the country.
Zambia's malnutrition rates remain among the highest in the world, standing at 48%, according to data obtained from the World Food Programme. This has been attributed to limited knowledge of nutrition, poor feeding practices, and limited and unhealthy diets as the main impairing contributing factors. Organizations championing nutrition have taken it to ensure that malnutrition and stunting levels reduce. Chongwe District Food and Nutrition Officer Estela Mwanza recently conducted a food training workshop under SAN 2 project for 2 days with women at Nkumba camp in Palavana. The workshop was aimed at educating women on the nutritional needs to eliminate malnutrition. Details in this report.
48% of the population in Zambia unable to meet their dietary needs. More than 1/3 of children under 5 years are stunted. Renewed efforts in eliminating malnutrition, that is as a result of poor dieting, is needed. Eating the right foods and sustainable diets becomes key in this fight. While rural communities grow a lot of different crops, preparation and preservation to maintain the nutritional content still remains a challenge for many. Chongwe District Food and Nutrition Officer Estela Mwanza conducted a food training workshop under SAN 2 project for 2 days with women at Nkumba camp in Palavana. The program is aimed at building capacity for rural women and men in preservation and preparation of food varieties.
To train the promoters under SAN 2 program in food processing and preservation, and as you can see behind, women are busy preparing different types of foods from the crops they grow in the fields, and these recipes we are preparing, they are for all the target groups in SAN 2, which are the children under 2, mothers who are expecting, and mothers who are breastfeeding.
Nkumba Camp Officer Memory Munansango says the program will change their lives for better.
Doing practicals. The groups which we are targeting, they are pregnant women and the under 2 children. For this program, we are doing it to reduce the malnutrition in Zambia. And the other thing, people, we are actually, as for now, we are training lead farmers who will train follower farmers.
Meanwhile, one of the beneficiaries, Hugo Kalua, says most men do not support such programs, thinking they are for women, urging his fellow men to come on board and support this cause.
Camp community ni kunkumba. Tabwa mkupunzira za gender na za food preservation. So, ubwino napezako kununua kuti napunzira njira za sopano zoyanikira mu mbewu. Kale banali kongo kuvibwatisa na kuika pazuva. Koma tapunzira kuti zoika pazuva mbewu ngamuyanika mavitamini yasira. Koma zoyanikira mu chimfule. Javamuna amena kambati ni program ya wakazi. Niwauza chabe kuti masikwano kwa bwera za gender. Ija nchito tikambati ni ya mkazi na mwamuna ngagwira. Muona masiku ano nchito tinakambati nzava muna munga mumaini na bazimai wapezeka bange na mumaini. So naise nchito zamini tuona tinzava kazi naise tizigwira kuti tinkale balance.
Tapika porridge yota tenga soya beans takazinga. After taisanka uchosa komiala taikazinga. Then tatenga na milisi taikazinga na yevi. Tai mix tinga milisi tatenga 2-3 cups, then soya beans tatenga 1 cup. Taisakaniza taipeleka kuchigayo baenda bagaisha. So pamene baileta tapika porridge yopasa abana baja bakuti basadwale malnutrition.
Sharon Kalimola, Camnet News.
Kanchiviya Member of Parliament Sunday Chanda has urged government to prioritize the transformation of farming blocks located in different parts of the country, such as Mansha Farm Block located in Kanchiviya constituency. Mr. Chanda notes that this will transform these farming blocks into processing centers. The lawmaker says this will also create millions of jobs throughout the country and throughout the entire value chain, as well as contribute to the country's GDP as Zambia aspires to become a global breadbasket. Mr. Chanda adds that Zambia's greatest agenda today should be to seriously tackle the underdevelopment and misery in these rural areas by ensuring that farming blocks are activated. Meanwhile, the Kanchiviya lawmaker says once the rural areas are developed, rural-urban migration will soon be a thing of the past.
I wish to make a clarion call on government to relook at the farm block development program, which was designed to facilitate agricultural land and rural development and to encourage private sector investment. These farming blocks have the potential to create millions of jobs for our youths and women, as well as contribute to the country's GDP, as Zambia positions to become the breadbasket not just of the region, but internationally too. There's an urgent need to revisit the current model for farming blocks as a panacea for addressing rural poverty in the country. New attention to these farming blocks will also turn the tide where rural economies have become zones of economic misery. I cannot think of any agenda more important in Zambia today than to seriously tackle the underdevelopment and misery in these rural areas. And I speak as Member of Parliament for a rural constituency. We must transform the rural areas into zones of economic prosperity. And with that said, thriving farming blocks as economic zones for crop processing will also reverse urban migration, which is taking its toll as rural areas become more and more deserted. The country has the following farming blocks, according to the Department of Agriculture in 2017. Luena farming block with 100,000 hectares. Solwezi farming block with 100,000 hectares. Lusuishi farming block with 100,000 hectares. Kalumango farming block with 100,000 hectares. Simango farming block with 100,000 hectares. Chongwe farming block with 50,000 hectares. Nansanga farming block with 100,000 hectares. Chikumbilo farming block with 45,000 hectares. Mansha farming block in Kanchibia district with 100,000 hectares. Mbesuma ranch farming block with 100,000 hectares. Masonde farming block with 100,000 hectares.
The Cyber Security Initiative Foundation has charged that Zambia's online space is still a threat to children because anyone can access all types of content online. In an interview, Foundation President Mr. John Disenki notes that the cyberspace, if not well used, has the potential to expose children to dangers such as human trafficking. According to statistics from Childline Zambia, the country has been recording an all-time high number of calls from children during the coronavirus pandemic, which has brought many changes, including high exposure to the online space for children. More in this report.
The internet has become a major part of today's society, as most activities, including education and business, are finding their space on online platforms. While useful in increasing education exposure for children, the internet also poses many dangers. It is in this vein that other countries have come up with extra security measures like facial recognition to ensure that children do not access online platforms that could potentially put them in harm's way. Among the dangers that children encounter online is potential contact with human traffickers, among others. The Cyber Security Initiative Foundation says Zambia should therefore domesticate international protocols aimed at safeguarding children by creating a safe online space. Data from non-governmental organizations like Childline Zambia indicate that the center was receiving an average of 700 calls per day at the height of the coronavirus pandemic. Foundation President Mr. John Disenki was speaking to Camnet News.
In other countries, it's very serious. Kids are abducted each and every day, and these criminals demand for ransoms to be paid before they release the kids. And again, there's no guarantee that if you pay ransom, they still give you a kid back. A number of kids have died, have been killed in the same vein because of being exposed to social media, which is very wrong. Even I think I've seen a number of our sisters on social media who post themselves with newly born babies, and they're like, I know the friends and the fun around being having a child is okay, but again, let's also be wary of the fact that social media is a dangerous space. It's a dangerous space, like a war zone for kids.
Mr. Tsenki knows that key to ensuring a safe online space is also incorporating online safety tips into the school curriculum.
It's very important to note that there's a Child Protection Online Child Protection Act, which is supposed to really be observed. So the world over, monitors and advocates for online child protection, which is very important. Even here in Zambia, let us desist from abusing kids by getting their photos and posting on social media. It's very dangerous for them. You might not be affected today, but tomorrow it might pounce on you, and then you realize how important it is to take your kids off social media.
Zambia is signed up to the United Nations Convention on the Right of the Child, among other protocols. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
You're watching Camnet Television and not just another channel. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after this break.
Savenda. Save nations, develop Africa. Connecting African countries to each other and connecting the African continent to the world. This logistics and global supply chain management group offers end-to-end solutions across all sectors of the economy. Agriculture, energy, telecommunications, finance, construction, transportation, and insurance. And now, its initiatives are greener than ever, operating in line with government guidelines and working to provide energy security for Zambia and beyond. 25 companies united under one group and one vision. Savenda. Trade and logistics made easy.
In keeping with a school tradition, it's the May 2022 Back to School with Butter Toffees. Get the all-new Butter Toffees original leather school shoes that are anti-fungal and antibacterial treated, hence reducing common school shoe odor and thus are eco-friendly. Hurry to your nearest Butter outlet countrywide and grab a pair of the all-new original Butter Toffees. Butter. Built to last, built for life.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry. Has so much data.
Mom.
Yes, baby.
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow.
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. The Zambian Roads and Highways Safety Group is urging parents and school administrators to exercise maximum caution and care in their usage of roads as schools open. The group has noted with dismay that most of the Zambian highways are not fit and safe for long-distance travel, as they are riddled with potholes, uneven surfaces, and have poor or no road markings. Group admin Mtoniswa Banda says this makes them a challenge to drive on, especially when there is a heavy build-up of traffic due to schools reopening. The group calls on parents driving their children to school to ensure a more competent and skilled driver is the one assigned the task, and that the vehicles being used are well maintained and fit for the journey. The group is also urging school administrations to ensure their hired buses are roadworthy and the drivers are qualified to drive on Zambian highways.
The Zambian Roads and Highway Safety Group is urging parents and school administrators to exercise maximum caution and care in their usage of Zambian roads these coming few days as they ferry pupils from home to their respective schools in readiness for the new school term. The Zambian Roads and Highway Safety Group has noted with dismay that most of the roads and Zambian highways are not fit and safe for long distance travel, as they are riddled with potholes, uneven surfaces, and have a poor road markings. This makes them a challenge to drive on, especially when there is a heavy build-up of traffic due to schools reopening. The group calls on parents driving their children to school to ensure a more competent and skilled driver is the one assigned the task, and that the vehicles being used are well maintained and fit for the journey. The group is also urging school administrators to ensure their hired buses are roadworthy and the drivers qualified to drive on Zambian highways. The group wishes a safe journey to all pupils. The group further notes that there are no visible efforts by the Zambian government through their agents, the Road Development Agency RDA, among others, to mend the damaged roads or build new routes. The Great North Road from Chisamba to Ndola is nearly impassable, while the Mumbwa, Kaoma, and Kaoma to Mongu stretch on the Great West Road is challenging. Others, like the Bazabuka Choma stretch, Kapiri Nakonde stretches, require patience and a good vehicle to drive on. The group has noted that despite motorists and advocacy road safety groups reporting that the stretch on the Great North Road between Chisamba and Ndola being badly damaged and ridden with dangerous ridges that makes them unsafe for use as a highway and busy road, the Road Development Agency and the National Road Fund have not moved on site to remedy the situation.
The United Nations World Food Programme, WFP, has partnered with the Zambian breweries to promote employment creation through sorghum, cassava and barley outgrower schemes in the country. Zambian Breweries Director of Corporate Affairs, Ezekiel Sekele, said the triple partnership comprising government, the World Food Programme and Zambian Breweries is working with farmers to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 17, espousing partnership for sustainable development. Mr. Sekele said the outgrower schemes have started registering the much-needed milestones in improving the living standards of the rural communities through employment creation. And the provincial administration in Southern Province in Choma, through the Assistant Secretary Daniel Mukosha, said government will continue promoting sorghum together with other crops as it is drought tolerant.
The United Nations World Food Programme has partnered with the Zambian breweries to promote employment creation through sorghum and barley outgrower schemes. Zambian Breweries Director Corporate Affairs Ezekiel Sekele said the triple partnership comprising government, WFP and the Zambian breweries is working with farmers to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 17, espousing partnership for sustainable development.
Agriculture has come in quite handy, where we involved ourselves in farming of barley, working with commercial farmers, cassava, sorghum. For us, we've seen employment being created through agriculture of cassava, sorghum, barley, but most important of all, what is key is sorghum and cassava, because that's where we're seeing the greatest impact. There are so many people, in thousands, who are employed through agriculture.
And the provincial administration in Southern Province in Choma, through the Assistant Secretary Daniel Mukosha, had this to say.
I'm gratified that government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and other cooperating partners, are taking care of the sorghum value chain program. I am also aware that the World Food Programme has facilitated the promotion of outgrower scheme for sorghum in Gwembe.
Meanwhile, WFP Program Policy Officer Stephen Omula said his United Nations agency is committed to ensuring increased food security and incomes among smallholder farmers.
WFP, we are committed, and our commitment is anchored in the joint work plan that we have with the government, and when we continue to implement and support communities to ensure food security, nutrition, as well as incomes are enhanced in Zambia.
Reporting, Lawrence Kavutu in Gwembe.
Rufunsa Town Council Chairperson Kennedy Mailoni has commended non-governmental organizations who have come on board to mitigate the impact of climate change in the district. Mr. Mailoni commended HIVOS for sensitizing ward development committees to be involved in implementing projects aimed at mitigating climate change. HIVOS Country Engagement Manager William Chilufya says the organization is taking advantage of the actualization of ward development committees by the government to engage them in mitigating the effects of climate change, as these committees are at the grassroots. HIVOS is training members from all the 12 ward development committees in Rufunsa district on coming up with strategies to mitigate climate change as they plan for their development in wards.
These are members of the ward development committees drawn from the 12 wards in Rufunsa district, undergoing a training on how to come up with strategies to mitigate climate change, organized by HIVOS, People Unlimited, Voices for Justice, Climate Action. HIVOS Country Engagement Manager William Chilufya explains the purpose of the training.
We are trying to work with the grassroots organizations to ensure that we co-create climate solutions, as well as build lobby and advocacy initiatives at a grassroots level, so that we can push for policy change at national and local level. We've seen that never before has this country reached this opportunity where the grassroots organizations like the ward development committees have been given the power to determine their own development.
Ward development committees have commended HIVOS for the training and have pledged to involve community members in mitigating climate change.
As we go down to our wards, we involve the traditional leaders in trying to, find ways of mitigating climate change, and of course, we also go down to involve all stakeholders.
HIVOS is here to sensitize us and also to take this climate change as a priority as we are doing our projects in these wards.
Climate change is real, and to mitigate it, there is need for concerted efforts from all stakeholders, such as the ward development committees, whom government has given power to be the voice of the grassroots. Reporting in Rufunsa district, I am Umsekiwa Ntembe.
This is Camnet Television News. We'll take our second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
We welcome you to the wonderful world of Savenda Electronics.
At Savenda Electronics, we pride ourselves in manufacturing high-quality electricity and water meters.
Boasting of the first of its kind state-of-the-art manufacturing plant in Zambia, Savenda Electronics manufactures customized smart electricity and water meters of international standards for both the local and international water and electricity utility companies. Our highly computerized factory, run by qualified staff, makes, calibrates, and electronically tests the smart meters to ensure only those meeting customer specifications are delivered to the market. Some of the main features which come with our meters includes notifications about low units, tempering, low battery, and many more customized features. Savenda Electronics provides on and off-site after-sales service and has favorable contract terms for water and electricity utility companies. Savenda Electronics, the real deal.
And now in international news, a pregnant woman's death after she was denied a cesarean section in hospital in Senegal has provoked nationwide condemnation and protests. Astou Sonkna died on April 7 in a public hospital in the northern town of Louga after reportedly spending 20 hours in labor. 4 midwives have been arrested for her death, which the Ministry of Health says was an avoidable human error. According to the UN, a woman dies every 2 minutes from complications of pregnancy and childbirth. Most of these deaths have taken place in Africa. In other news, the last of the Ukrainian civilians trapped in a steel plant in the port city of Mariupol have now been evacuated, according to officials. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
The normally busy birthing ward in Louga, a public hospital in northern Senegal, is now a crime scene. This is where Astou Sonkna and her unborn child died. After being in labor for 20 hours, Astou begged the nurses and doctors to perform a C-section, telling them she would die otherwise. The staff ignored her. 4 midwives have been arrested for her death. The Ministry of Health says this was an avoidable human error. According to the UN, 1 woman dies every 2 minutes from complications of pregnancy and childbirth. Most of these deaths take place in Africa. In Senegal, Sonkna's death was one too many, causing nationwide condemnation and protest.
Astou Sonkna's death has shaken us. I lost my little sister. Her baby carries her name. This pain that we women have gone through can no longer be ignored. Too many women die giving life.
Ali and Mariam Afal are anxious. She's had a miscarriage before and this is their first pregnancy. Mariama is about to have a C-section and didn't want to appear on camera. She's too nervous. Following Sonkna's death, the couple decided that she would give birth in a private clinic.
In public hospitals, if you don't pay the staff, giving them extra cash, they won't even deal with you. In this clinic, you pay, but they are caring. We feel reassured. It feels safe.
For the clinic's doctor, Mariama's C-section is a routine operation that should take only 30 minutes. Okay, so we're just outside the operation room where the surgery is taking place, and I want you to see what's going on outside. There are second-hand equipment, from beds to surgery equipment, lights, and here further down they're installing an oxygen machine. Inside this block is a new anesthesiology machine, basic equipment that you need to operate, except here in Senegal in public hospitals, well, they're in short supply. In the birthing ward in Louga, used syringes are strewn everywhere. Blood is splattered on the wall and on the floor. The wastebasket overflow with placentas and umbilical cords. The stench of human waste is unbearable. There's only one gynecologist for the 300,000 people living in Louga. The Health Workers Union of the hospital says the state has abandoned them.
Look at the state of the beds of our wards. Women have to give birth on the floor. Where are all the millions of dollars the state promised for women's reproductive health? Money we need to protect mothers and their babies.
Back at the clinic, Mariama gives birth to a boy. He's quickly examined by the doctor, who hands him to the nurses, who in turn hands him to the father. Meanwhile, the mother is in the recovery room, still waiting to meet her newborn.
Out and safe. Ukraine says all women, children and the elderly have been evacuated from the Azovstal steel plant. For months, they sheltered in underground bunkers, while Ukrainian fighters from the Azov battalion attempted to prevent Russian soldiers from completely taking over the port city. President Zelensky repeatedly called on the United Nations to help lead civilians to safety through humanitarian corridors.
I want to thank the teams of the International Committee of the Red Cross and the United Nations for helping us carry out the first phase of the Azovstal plant evacuation mission. We managed to save more than 300 people, women and children.
Russia agreed to a number of ceasefires to facilitate evacuations. Both Kyiv and Moscow repeatedly accused one another of violating the truce. Hundreds of civilians were eventually evacuated in multiple operations led by the United Nations, taken to a nearby village away from the shelling. But with the fate of Ukrainian fighters still in the steelworks, it's unclear if President Vladimir Putin will be able to declare victory in Mariupol in time for May 9th, a day where Russia celebrates the Soviet Union's World War II victory over the Nazis. Asad Beg, Al Jazeera, Oman.
Let's now have some sports news. In sports news, Tunisian Ons Jabeur won the second and most prestigious tennis title of her career in Madrid on Saturday evening. Jabeur, ranked 10th in the world, beat 14th ranked American Jessica Pegula 7-5, 0-6, 6-2 2 weeks before the French Open. The Tunisian becomes the first Arab player to win the WTA 1000 tournament, the most prestigious category after the Grand Slam. After Saturday's win, Jabeur will climb to number 7 in the world on Monday, matching her first ranking from last November. Two years ago, she became the first Arab player to reach the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam at the 2020 Australian Open.
Tunisian Ons Jabeur won the second and most prestigious title of her career in Madrid on Saturday evening. Jabeur, ranked 10th in the world, beat 14th ranked American Jessica Pegula.
I feel like I can remember the other one, but I can remember this one very well. It's amazing, very happy. I'm glad that I got the win today. Didn't want to get disappointed again, to be honest with you. But you know, we've been working very hard, and the match today was very difficult, and I'm glad that I pulled the win, and hopefully this will be the opportunity to win many more titles.
After Saturday's win, Jabeur will climb to number 7 in the world on Monday, matching her best ranking from last November.
To end the news, the headlines once again. Bishop MFULA urges the church to offer counseling to those accused of corruption. Government advised to tackle rural poverty by relooking at farming blocks. Operation Young Vote bemoans disrespecting the presidency by those charged with corruption. In international news, woman's death in childbirth sparks outcry in Senegal. And in sports news, Tunisian wins prestigious tennis title in Madrid. We'll now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. So we do not focus on what is sin, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. On that note, we come to the end of the news. Thank you for watching Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.